Okay, so we are going to edit this face. The first thing that we're going to do is to set the sun light to 5, and we are also going to look for the shadows, how the parameters are set right here as the cube size 512, cascade size 128. After that, we're going to check into the shader. As you can see, it's our usual shader, diffuse shader to RGB, a color ramp set to almost 0.5, and that is going to be the deciding factor between the diffuse color and a little bit of blue tint to be added on top. Finally, we're going to do this as an animation, and the result of the face for the cat looks like this. Okay, so we have our light like this. I'm going to be just moving it around with the light active. We have this horrible shadow. We don't want that. So what we want to do is to edit this in a perfect way so that it will work for all of our facial positions. But you can see that the render, the shading is not very good, and this is because we need to adjust manually the face zones. So I'm going to be drawing different face zones so you can actually see what we're going to do beforehand. So the first thing that I want you to check out is this triangle thing, the Rembrandt triangle that goes around the eye. But the triangle ends here, and that is a problem because we should have done the complete mask, which should go all the way over here. I'm only going to work in the middle of the face because we're going to divide this face. Although this face already has facial blend shapes, I'm going to be deleting and recreating everything once again. But for now, let's just concentrate on the zones that we're going to be working with. Next, and I guess this is the most important part, it's this middle zone right here. This middle zone will have a different approach to the normals. Okay, all of this. Then we're going to be concentrating ourselves around the nose. So all of this area for the nose is also going to be taken care of. The part of the under nose as well. Okay, and then finally we have the very basic part, frontal part of the head. Again, I'm just working on the half of this model's face because we already know that we're going to be working with everything else the same on the other side. So this is very important. This is the middle of the face, and this area will also have a different organization for the normals. In order for us to approach to edit the normals, we need to first organize our thoughts around the topology of the head. This is why it is important for the face to have the correct Rembrandt triangle as well as other cuts. They need to be modeled into the face. Okay, so this is just a basic example of how you should approach it. I'm gonna be turning off the mirror modifier. This is how you always want to start creating your face. Okay, it doesn't matter what part of the process you are in right now. This is what you should have planned beforehand. So I'm really happy that you're watching this video right now because this is going to help you a whole lot in your development. So let's start. Just like we mentioned before, we have different areas in the face that we are going to be addressing right now. And I have already colored these things, but I want you to focus please on this side of the screen first, okay? So the first area that we have is the front part of the face. All of these normals are going to be pointing directly to the camera. We're going to see that in a later stage. But right now, this is the first region of the area that you're going to work in. Why is this important? Because here you have the best flatness in the face. So you really need to get your modeling skills flowing along these lines. Okay? We're going to be talking about edge flow in another video, but for now I just want you to concentrate on the parts of the face topology. So we're going to be naming this front area. Next, what we want to do is to take a look at the side of the face, this one right here. Everything that is right here as the side of the face. So we're going to name this side. Again, this is just for illustration purposes. Okay? You need to approach your model having in mind that you're going to divide your face. Your face is going to be divided into different sections, and this is just an example. I don't know the specific topology of your model, but this is what you should consider first. Next, we want to explore the nose, because this area right here is going to help you with the shadows on the nose. So we're going to use this as nose. And finally, we have this red area, which I guess it's going to be the most important part, the Rembrandt triangle. I just call it cheek or underlid, however you want to call this area. So this is just, the lines that are going to be explaining how you're going to divide the face. Because now, what you're going to see next, it's the conclusion, or rather how the overall average normal's direction should be pointing at. Okay, so I'm going to activate the mirror modifier. Now we can see the entire face, left and right. And let's switch all of this off. And as you can see, we have our materials assigned just for demonstration purposes. This has no real value when you're doing this editing. I've just assigned all of these areas so that we can see clearly in 3D what it's going to happen. Okay, because in just a minute we're going to address this area here as well as other areas that are not highlighted. Next, I want you to look at this from a side view. I'm going to press 3, and now I'm going to be looking at this at the side view. Okay, so again here, 3. This is the side view. And this is the jaw line. This is what the most dark part of the face is going to have its own shadow. And that's why when you see it like this, 3/4, it kind of gives the illusion that you have this roundedness to it, but in reality what is going on is that this is going far back. All of these points, all of these vertices are being sent all the way to the back, and this is why this is called the mask, because in reality it kind of looks like a mask. If you can see it, let me show you from the top. Okay, let me show you from the bottom. It kind of looks like a mask. So whenever you're taking all of these points and dragging them back like this, let me turn around like that, and you drag them forward or you drag them backward, you're making changes as to how far that line is going to blend towards the let me just undo that, towards the depth of the face for this character. Now that you have all of these areas clearly divided on your head, clearly separated on your head, clearly defined in your head, I want to show you the normal directions. Please take a look over to this side of this screen, and then you can see what is the approximate way that you're going to be working all of that area in regards to its normals. So you can see that all of this green area, it's always going to point in this way. Now this is something I have already mentioned on part 1, 2, and 3 of my Stylized video series, but it's 2022, Blender has evolved as well as other add-ons, and I wanted to show you all of these parts with more details, with the new tools, with the new UI in Blender. Again, the front area, let's just use this back. The front area is being represented by this arrow. You can see that the arrow is pointing straight to the front. This area, this block, this area region, it's pointing in almost a 45-degree angle. Okay, you can look it from the downside. And this side of the face, I have noticed that there are some variations for that. I have it directly selected in this way, but I have seen other models which use different techniques. I don't want to confuse you with that, but some other models have this all the way broken down into that direction. Totally opposite. So you can see from a 2D perspective view, that you do not make any difference as to how far this normal is going to be bent. If you see it from the top, if you take a look from the top, you can see that it's very pointing backwards, very away from the light vector. And if you see it on the sideways, it's barely, escaping the light angle that you have right here, because even if the light angle hits here, you will still have all of these edges. Let me show you. All of these edges here, we would need an edge, or we could use these edges and start breaking the normal. This is another concept that we're going to see in this video as well. So don't worry, we have plenty of time ahead. We're going to address all of these topics because this has been something that has been recurring over the past 3 years since I created the Stylized course as to how we should manage our normals. So now that you have a general idea of the general block areas, the bigger areas, we need to start working on the finer detail areas. One of those things are going to include, for example, the nose, as you can see right here, and the eyelids, the top eyelids, because generally those regions also have normals. Let me top lids. Let's name it that way. And we want to show you that all of these areas right here are going to be changed, okay, as well as the lower part of the nose. So let me just do that in mirror so you can see it, so you can actually see it. You can also notice that I started modeling here, but it ends up right there, right here, okay? So not very appropriate, because again, if you go all the way down here, you can still change it, but we still need triangles. This is why it's important that you know how to manipulate your topology. Don't worry, the first lesson after this video is going to be exactly that, how you're going to manipulate the topology by moving around the normals in a very simple geometry. So you can come here and start creating this face. This is why this is important to learn very slow, step by step, so that you don't get rushed. You really get the basics, you really get the structure, you really get the foundations as of what you're going to be doing next. So now we have defined these little areas. We can also, define some here and some here as well. That's something that I find very useful. And also this lower part of the lip, and also this lower part of the upper lip. You may notice that I'm drawing with a blue color, and if you notice here, our axis, our z-axis, is represented by the blue color. This is why I'm doing this in blue. This is not some random color. I really want you to get this and understand the axis. If I see it from my top view, you can see that my green axis is set to Y, and that is why these arrows are all green except for this one, because I mentioned before I was manipulating this so you can notice the difference. So let me just correct that. I forgot this object specifically. Let me just set it apart, because this object is set by the color on the viewport. Sorry. Alright, so now you're seeing that we have green arrows, which represent the y-axis. We have blue arrows, which represent the z-axis. And we have red arrows, which will represent the x-axis. So let's continue. The next thing I want to show you is that once we have clearly defined all of those areas, we also want to focus on the next things, such as the nose, and also this part down here. And I have left this for the very end because I really need to first explain some of the concepts that we're going to be using with the face, so that you understand the correct orientation for this. But if you're in a hurry and you really want to have this all cleared out, I'm just going to do a quick sample. Shift D. Let me just put this on a let's use a cyan color. Again, I'll be explaining all of this throughout the chapters. But if you really are in a hurry, you really need to figure this out, and you are rushing into this, which I don't recommend. I recommend that you watch the entire chapter so that you'll know what you're doing and why you are doing it. This is how it's going to look. The area on your mouth is not going to have the traditional dividing line. Let me just switch this off. When the light hits the cheek and the cheek creates a shadow, all of this area generally makes a shadow, a very nasty shadow, as you saw before. Okay, let me use a purple. So this area is always nasty, just like you're seeing right now. See that? It's always nasty. Look at these shadows. They are horrible. You don't want that. And so if you do this average, you're going to get shadows. So if you do this, you're also going to get shadows. And thus, the only way to escape, or the only way to fix all of that, is if you arrange your normals by hitting the light itself and deleting the chance for the normals to, start a shadow factor here. Why? Because this direction average almost this direction in average, I mean, for the light. You can also say, okay, Mr. Schiller, so if I understand correctly, that means that I can not only point to this direction, but I can also point it upwards and start receiving more light. Because you're going to encounter that the direction of the light, as you can see right here, it's going to meet with the facial normal direction, thus creating a sense of flatness. Okay? So once all of this has been explained, and I hope you have understood these basic principles, we're going to deal later on with the middle sections that we have right here, which I'm going to be calling them transitional areas. This is what most of you, and I really don't understand. If you're watching this video, please give me your reply on the comment section down below. If you're watching this video, I really want to know, why in the world would you hate that whenever you're moving your light, the shadow, after it has been normal edited, the shadow snaps in, and you hate that effect? Why is that? I personally find it that that's the way that happens on the drawings on 2D animation. It happens like that. I can show you many examples on the next video, but I just really want to understand why most of the people who are doing or are working with stylized 2D animation, they don't like that effect. So if the light rotates, we can see that the vectors are going to snap from this area, bam, into this area, bam, into this area, and they're going to be drawn in in a jagged fashion, or rather, if they are well edited, you're going to see, because that's why I created this face in this way, so you can see that the basics still need to be edited. Okay, this is important. This is not a correct topology phase, but I wanted to do it so that you can recognize your own errors and start fixing them. At the end of the course, we're going to show the complete, finalized, correct topology phase. But for now, we're going to start very easy. This is bicycles with wheels, for you. Okay, so I think I went too overboard. I hope not to have bored you. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment sections down below. This is going to be section 5 thoroughly. We're going to dedicate the entire section 5 just to normal edit, okay? I really want you to understand the main principles of what you're doing with the topology, with the normal bending, with the normal blending, as well as other techniques to stylize your 2D shaders. Okay, thank you very much. This has been Pierre Schiller, 3D animator and VFX compositor. And let me ask you something. Have you tried Blender? Try Blender. Blender is powerful and beyond the artistry compatible.